from Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Straight into it this week, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond. Welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 222. It's week 47 of 2025. I'm Alexander Leibner, and a very special welcome if you're visiting Sandton for the very first time, if you're listening for the very first time, or if you're a regular listener. Across the world, across Gauteng, South Africa, and of course Johannesburg and Pretoria, wherever you are, if you're listening online or on air, I'm happy to welcome you, and I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. My trusted left hand, Vincenzo, back behind the mixing desk, looking very festive this week as Christmas comes ever nearer. We're counting down the days, and it's certainly one of the biggest weeks of the year in Sandton, mind you. The G20 Leaders Summit taking place on the 22nd and 23rd of November. And if the traffic drills are anything to go by, well, Sandton is going to be on lockdown and abuzz with all the people visiting from across the world for this summit. And everything looks so fresh. It's unbelievable how fresh everything looks. They even painted that abandoned, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a concrete flower wall display area thing at the bottom of Sandton Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive. I almost didn't know what to do with myself when I drove past there with my car the other day. And I even believe that they switched on some highway lights, some street lights. It almost looked like one of those Christmas lights things that they do around the festive season, where they switch on the lights. And meanwhile, it wasn't the Christmas lights, but it was actually just the normal road and highway lights, which is, let's hope they stay on. I hope they don't switch them off for Christmas again when it's all over. Let's hope they stick around. And it's going to be a week, nonetheless, and I'm sure we'll talk all about it next week. But the week that has passed has been equally event-filled, with Bike launching its all-new B30 vehicle in South Africa, in Sandton, and there was a big dinner for that. Everyone had a speech, including the Premier of the Eastern Cape, the Ambassador to China, the CEO of Bike. I mean, it was a busy evening. Then APVA had its Champagne in Africa festival, which took place at Summer Place. Gorgeous. A beautiful event. And if you had a chance to go, I'd love to get your feedback on it, but it was exquisite. And Chef Wandile Mabaso, a very talented man, revealed his very own custom label champagne. Clock it, Chef Wandile, clock it. Essilor Luxottica revealed some of their new frames for the season, if you're looking for some new sunshades for summer. And I had the pleasure of emceeing the annual CNBC Africa Corporate Golf Day Challenge and Auction, which went towards a good cause, and we raised some good money for that. Then the Christmas lights came on in Hyde Park Corner, not for the G20, but for the festive season. And it was an evening welcoming all things Christmas, beautiful display, dancers, singers, drinks. I mean, it was all happening in Hyde Park Corner. Then the Greenhouse and Short Market Club showcased their new menu. They've got some beautiful new dishes ahead of the holidays. And then Melrose Arch kicked off its Christmas season with an all-white classics concert and the Drakensberg Boys Choir performing. And we also managed to fit in a Jacaranda high tea at the Four Seasons, the Westcliff. It's giving festive from now on. It's giving festive. One thing I have missed, though, and I thought about this week, is I haven't seen the Salvation Army in a while. Are they performing this year? Are we going to see them? If you're part of the Salvation Army, let us know. I'd love to know if they're performing somewhere. So what's on the menu this week? In a bit, I'll be chatting to one of the world's leading hotel groups to chat about their latest travel trends report as we all plan our 2026 travel. Take a listen. Then a local church is gearing up for Christmas celebrations, and they've also delivered a very early Christmas gift to motorists. I'll be getting all the details. As always, I then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to look at the latest movies hitting the circuit, and we will be recommending our favorite Christmas movies over the coming weeks. So if you're into Christmas movies, this is the list to be following. We've got some good ones. And finally, I chat to a man whose time is really, really valuable in more ways than one. You don't want to miss this one. Another jam-packed hour is ahead, and I'd also like to hear from you. So if you'd like to get in touch, send through your questions, comments, and feedback to editor at sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times. Hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and also check out the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. And if you're not part of the podcast community, well, be sure to subscribe on the Sandton Times Hour on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, AfriPods, and so many more. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
There's one thing South Africans are serious about. It's taking a solid holiday. And according to new research by Marriott Bonvoy, 2026 is shaping up to be the year we pack our bags more often and maybe a little smarter too. Nearly 7 in 10 South Africans say they'll take the same or more holidays next year, with younger generations leading the way, blending AI trip planning, luxury escapes, and passion pursuits into their travel mix. It's called the Ticket to Travel Report, and it's painting a fascinating picture of how we're exploring the world. Joining me now to unpack, or is it pack, all this is Dorcas Dlamini Mbele, Senior Director of Commercial for Sub-Saharan Africa at Marriott International. And Dorcas, good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Oh, thank you so much. Really, really great to be with you today.
Well, Dorcas, it's good to have you on. And we had a chance to have a bite to eat and marinate over this... did I say Marriottnate over this this report that you've released? And it shows that nearly 7 in 10 South Africans plan to take more holidays in 2026. What's behind the surge in travel confidence and enthusiasm?
Yeah, it is really, again, encouraging to see that South Africans are actually looking forward to traveling more than they did this year into next year. I think the strong travel intentions among South Africans obviously signals a robust recovery and growth in the trajectory in terms of travel, which is great. And, it benefits obviously our economy, and it enhances the economic landscape for South Africa overall. But I think, South Africans are very intentional about their decisions in travel, and all of it is really centered and guided by purpose and creating connections, and also enjoying a little bit of comfort as well.
One thing that came out that might have some people surprised and others not so much is the fact that people are using more and more AI to plan their holidays. I've had my own experience. We visited some friends in the UK earlier this year, and she is an AI wizard. She put together an entire itinerary of London in one day based on AI. It worked out the timings, where we had to be, which underground station to use at what time, and what the most efficient way was to see basically the whole of London in 12 hours. But most people are doing this now for their holidays, which is quite impressive. I think 49% of people. How do you think this is going to impact your business when it comes to AI planning? Because also the AI is only as good as the information that's available, on the internet.
No, you're right. I mean, everybody is now, especially the younger generation, it was really quite clear out of the research that they are the leaders in terms of using AI for planning their holidays, for inspiration, for research and planning, as you say. Coming back to your question, for us at Marriott, we continue to explore the opportunities, that AI represents for us, right? And our focus is to really focus on personalizing each guest experience. So whilst you might be using AI overall to plan your trip, but when you're staying at any of the Protea hotels, Western, any of the Marriott Bonvoy branded hotels, what our focus is to make sure that we use AI to personalize your guest experience and exceed your expectations when you're staying in our hotels.
I mean, is there any way that you can influence the outcome of those AI plans? Because basically it's pretty much open to whatever the AI feels is necessary for whatever the query is.
Our investment in, natural language search and relevancy and algorithm-based results enables us to be able to harness that, the latest technology that we have to cater specifically to the dynamic global travel customer as well as the audience. So that's how we ultimately are using, AI to really enhance the guest experience in our hotels. What we also find is that our elite members of our Marriott Bonvoy loyalty program, who we also have ambassadors, are already receiving personalized trip itineraries through AI, making the experience and their stay at our hotels really relevant and personalized to them specifically.
This other trend that you picked up on, which I quite liked, was this luxscaping. And to put that into perspective for people, it's essentially attaching something of luxury to what might be a fairly standard holiday. So you might be staying in a 4-star and a 3-star, but then you decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to fly back business class, or I'm going to throw in a spa treatment, or maybe a 1 or 2 night stay somewhere bougie. Why are South Africans drawn to this? What do you put it? What do you make of this insight?
Yeah, so what we found out of the research is that they use this for a couple of different reasons, right? To elevate their stay, not only because they want to stay for the full trip, staying in a luxury hotel, but they might not be able to actually afford to have a complete luxury stay during their trip. So they elevate it by at the start of the trip. The first night might be in a luxury 5-star resort or hotel, or end off with maybe a spa retreat as one of the nights, is for them to really elevate their overall trip. But the other reason, what we found in the luxscaping environment, was that South Africans also wanted to kind of feel like after the holiday, they feel refreshed because they've added this element at the end of their stay, allowing them to go back home and not feeling like after a whole holiday, you actually want to be able to, need to go on another holiday. They go home a little bit refreshed. But it's another way just to show how South Africans are really quite clever in, maximizing their spend and their trips.
There's still a lot of other insights that you provided in terms of how Gen Zs are shaping, the future of travel, passion pursuits, more South Africans traveling for sport and hikes and all kinds of sort of adventure passions. Sustainability plays a big part, price and value.
Yeah.
But we're going to put all that information up on the website so people can read through that in their own time. But what I do want to ask you as we wrap things up, what do you do with all this kind of information? How does this help you guide your decision making in terms of upgrading properties, expanding properties, allocating new ones? How does Marriott make the most out of this report?
Yeah, so it is important for us to stay relevant, right? In the ever-evolving environment that we live in, our customers, as initially, as part of the report, we also share how many hotels we have across the world, which means we have every different customer that's coming from all walks of life. We have 9,700 hotels and 31 brands, which means that we have a variety of properties and experiences that we offer to different guests across our 250 members in our Marriott Bonvoy environment. So the information like this allows us to be able to stay relevant in terms of offering the unique experiences that our guests are looking for. It also allows us to be able to be strategic in how we acquire new properties and brands that are relevant into the different locations. I think, you heard earlier this week when we met and we presented on the report, we spoke about new developments and new properties we're opening, bringing new brands and new markets as well. This report, this type of information allows us to be really quite strategic and relevant in offering the right type of products and brands and experiences that our customers are looking for.
Well, you heard it here. New properties and new brands coming to South Africa and some exciting things there. Once again, we'll put it up on the sandtontimes.co.za for you to read in your own time. And Dorcas Dlamini Mbele, Senior Director of Commercial for Sub-Saharan Africa at Marriott International. It's been such a pleasure having you as my guest for a change on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much. It was really lovely to spend some time with you.
Amazing.
See you soon.
Absolutely. And it's time for a quick break. But stay right where you are. More of the Sandton Times Hour after this.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So Sandton continues to grow, so do the role of community-led initiatives in shaping the spaces we live, work and worship in. A few examples stand out more prominently than the recent investment by Rivers Church Sandton in a major road upgrade, an infrastructure boost set to benefit congregants but also the neighbours in the area. It's a gesture that speaks not only of civic responsibility but to a long-standing commitment to uplifting the broader community. And at the same time, Rivers Church is preparing for one of the most anticipated moments in its calendar, the annual Christmas celebrations, known for their scale, warmth, and the unmistakable spirit of generosity and hope. I'm joined by Pastor André Olivier to delve into the heart behind the church's latest community investment, explore what these improvements mean for Sandton, and get an inside look at the exciting plans for this year's Christmas season. And Pastor André, It's good to have you back on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you, Alexander. Great to be with you again.
Pastor André, I see you come bearing early Christmas gifts with this road upgrade that you've been busy with quietly in the background. I see it's now completed. What was the motivation behind getting involved in this project?
Well, you say bearing early Christmas gifts. We had hoped to have it done in January of this year, but delay, council, then a sign that was put up illegally had to be moved. And so finally we are here because we had hoped to create a great space, from the beginning of the year for the community. But finally, all's in place. I think they're about to paint the lines on the road. We figured that with one lane coming up South Road, people got bottlenecked and couldn't get past to get to Sandton City and to go on their way. So we figured two lanes could work well. We approached council, and it's about the third or fourth upgrade we've done. We've done Middle Road, we've done South, we've contributed. This one was one of the cheaper ones, actually, 3 million rand. But finally it's done, and it should help everybody.
Can you take us through the scope of what had to be done here to improve the accessibility and obviously also the safety of congregants and the neighbors when it came to, I suppose, specifically Sunday services where the bottlenecks were taking place?
Yes, well, the road is actually very busy all week. It really is congested all week. It really should have been widened quite a while ago, and it was on the cards 30 years ago to be widened, but they haven't done it. So every time there's a development, every time we build, and the last time we built our main auditorium, we had to contribute to widening it. So there were sections that were widened and sections that weren't. And so we felt if we could get that section widened, it'll benefit everyone during the week, as well as on the weekend, as well as our congregants.
How important is it to you to have the church involved in these broader community developments and sort of an element of social responsibility in contributing to the area?
Well, I would have preferred not to use the money on a road, to be honest. I would have liked council to have done it, because that money could have gone to the poor, and we have a foundation where we channel a large percentage of our income to the poor. We do currently, I think we scaled down, but we're doing 40,000 meals a week. We have 10 orphanages that we support. We do a lot of grandmothers that we supply. We do school upgrades. We've just built 7 classrooms in the Pakamani school down in Orange Farm. So we're involved in a lot. And I would have preferred that money to go to the really needy than to the road. But the road is just as important ultimately with people getting to church. The community benefits every day of the week with that road widening.
Well, that road is now open, and I'm sure you'll start receiving feedback from congregants and the area as to how that's playing out. One of the things that's going to be a major highlight for you in the next coming weeks is the Christmas celebrations. What can people look forward to this year as Christmas approaches?
Well, as we kick off December, I think it's December the 7th, we have a carol service or carol services. All 3 morning services will be the carol service production. And that's a very special time every year in December. The production team does various carols and songs, and it's a great event, and for everyone in the community as well as for our own church. And then we have Christmas services, Christmas Eve, as well as Christmas Day. Christmas Eve, 1 service, Christmas Day, 2 services. And then the community kind of winds down until we kick off again first week in January.
Absolutely. Well, we'll pop those details up on the website as well on sandtontimes.co.za if you would like to attend. And I know I've attended a few over the past couple of years, and they are tremendous productions. I mean, this isn't a small-scale event, and the musical heart of Rivers Church does an incredible job in putting on the most spectacular carols. But how do you balance the scale of the Christmas celebrations with the message and meaning behind the season?
That's a good question, because, the production is not meant to overshadow the meaning and the significance of Christmas, as well as, we don't want to just entertain. We want to do something special, something to highlight the season, but by no means make it shallow or lose its meaning in some kind of entertainment production. So it's balancing those two things carefully so that people are inspired, people enjoy something unusual, unique, and it sort of highlights the season, but the depth of the Christmas message is there, and the awareness that we're focusing on Jesus Christ, who visited the planet.
You've been doing this for numerous years, Pastor André. As you reflect on the season that is coming and the seasons that have gone, what's your sort of message around the Christmas season?
Well, Christmas is special because really, as I said, God, in the form of Jesus Christ, the third person of the Godhead, visited the planet. And so that is a momentous occasion. It's the most significant event in history. Easter would come second when Jesus died on the cross. But Christmas, God came to the planet to reach mankind, to call us from our sin and weakness and to pay the price for our sins and to invite us into a relationship with the Father. And so that's a very significant event, a very momentous occasion, and we celebrate it every year in a very significant way.
Well, there you have it, Pastor André Olivier, Senior Pastor at Rivers Church. Thank you for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour and for sharing that update on the investment into the road, but also the Christmas celebration highlights.
Thank you, Alexander.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
And as we head into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leibner. And if there's anything that sounded interesting, intriguing, and you didn't get all the details, well, hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and check out the show notes for this week's edition. And we try and add some additional reading, all the information we've discussed, details, further links, and we try and get that up as soon as possible. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but just bear with us. Also, be sure to check out the social media accounts at Sandton Times for additional visuals and interaction. And of course, the WhatsApp line exclusive to the Sandton Times, 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 for your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. It's time to connect with Tat Wolfen, as we always do, to chat all things entertainment. And Tat, what have you got on the menu today?
Today, I have to move like a speed train because I have a whole bunch.
Oh, wow.
So let me get straight into it, okay?
Great.
For our loyal listeners who are also loyal readers of sandtontimes.co.za, you'll know that I spoke very highly about this movie Predator Badlands,
Right.
which exceeded my expectations because I thought, oh my goodness, not another Predator movie. But one of its strengths that I mentioned in my review is its strong 3D visuals. But I'm actually very sad to say that it seems to be a new trend now with South African cinemas that they'll show a 3D movie for 1 week only, and then after that it goes flat. So if you, a fellow 3D fan, just know this, please. If a 3D movie opens, go and see it in that first week, because after that it goes flat.
Don't wait.
And as far as I'm concerned, seeing a 3D movie, particularly like this one, which had such great visuals in 3D, seeing a movie like this in 2D is like watching a Rolling Stones concert without Mick Jagger. So, opening, I want to also tell you about a new movie that's opening on circuit on Friday because, as we've often discussed, the distributors tend not to preview these movies timeously. But they did preview a movie called Sisu, The Road to Revenge, which is a Finnish movie.
Okay.
It's a sequel. I hadn't seen the original Sisu, and if I had seen the original, I think I would have stayed away from this one. It's really a kind of an anti-Russian revenge movie because they got a raw deal from the Russians at the end of the Second World War, and I think the Finns are still hanging on to it.
Okay.
But this movie has about 12 lines of dialogue. Everything else is violence. It's wall-to-wall bloodshedding. Such an ugly movie. So, if violence is your scene, then you can go, then I guess I would recommend Sisu, The Road to Revenge. But if you're actually after a movie about human beings who interact, talk, and do stuff, then I would say avoid it.
Okay, all right. So that one's off the list?
Completely, for me, certainly. Although, unfortunately, I've already been exposed to it. But as the Monty Python team used to say,
and now for something completely different.
From the untrammeled violence of Sisu to the warmth and life-affirming beauty of a timeless Christmas classic, because, of course, we're heading for that season.
Okay.
Now, A Charlie Brown Christmas was a TV special from 1965 that hasn't dated in the slightest. It's filled, I should rather say, with charm and heart, and it affirms family values, and so it's certainly a rarity in the kind of things that we're exposed to these days at cinemas and on TV, and it's so close to the spirit of the season. And interestingly, the producer Lee Mendelsohn, okay, he had brought the animator Bill Melendez on board for this project because he liked Melendez's flat style of animation, which mimicked the kind of the style of the Charlie Brown comic strips, which are obviously quite flat looking. So he brought Melendez on board, and once they made this thing, both Mendelsohn and Melendez watched it, and they kind of thought, you know what? This thing is not going to set audiences alight. We're sitting with a dud, okay? And even the network said, the only reason we're going to show this movie is that we've already published it in the TV guides. So they broadcast it with dread. And guess what? It set audiences alight. Firstly, about 45% of owners of TV sets watched the show. 45%. Okay.
Wow.
And the audiences loved it. And I mean, I love this show as well, and I've seen it more than once. And I can't understand why the actual creators of the show thought they had a dud on their hands. Maybe they thought it was a good movie, but that it just wouldn't catch on with the public. But it certainly did. Okay. And for decades to follow, it was shown every Christmas on the networks. And it spawned a whole number of other Charlie Brown specials. What I love about these Charlie Brown shows is that they really give you a sense of Charles Schulz, the creator. He was apparently a very lovely, gentle man. He was a devout Christian, just by the by. And that comes across in the Charlie Brown Christmas, although he never proselytizes, But I think anyone, including myself, I'm not a Christian, but I can relate to Christian sentiments and to the Christian sense of Christmas, And this special certainly gives you that. It's as I've said earlier, it's really very heartwarming, and it goes to the essence of what the season is all about. I wanted to also mention this beautiful, gentle jazz soundtrack that runs throughout the special. And it was created by a San Francisco jazzman called Vince Guaraldi, who very sadly died in 1976 at the very young age of 47 of a heart attack. But his soundtracks were in the subsequent Charlie Brown specials until his passing. But for me, that's another special element about these Charlie Brown specials. And they again convey, like everything else about the show, they give you such a good sense of Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts. Because whilst his comic strips were very funny, and I loved them, I think the TV specials gave you a more in-depth sense of the creator of Charlie Brown.
That's amazing.
So,
I must say, I used to enjoy watching that special every single year. I think at some point, one of the TV channels used to show it every single December. And it is
in South Africa as well. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. And it was also so great to watch. I mean, I also remember the jazz soundtrack so well. And I think as we build up to Christmas now, you and I are going to be delving into a couple of must-watch or re-watch Christmas movies that if you haven't watched them, or if you have watched them and forgotten about them, Tat, you and I are going to touch on those and get people sort of warmed up for the festive season.
Oh yeah, we're going to go into some titles that are must watches for over the season, most definitely. They're the kinds of movies that you can rewatch. I'm not huge on rewatching movies, but for this time of year, you feel that you have to settle down and watch those, and we'll certainly go into those in the coming weeks. I just wanted to tell you that A Charlie Brown Christmas is available in South Africa on Apple TV, and I know that in the States, they're going to open it for free on December the 13th and 14th. So even if you aren't an Apple TV Plus subscriber, you'll be able to watch it, which I think is a lovely Christmas present from Apple TV Plus. I think that if they're doing it in the States, I've had no confirmations locally because Apple TV is kind of silent when it comes to media
Yeah.
in this country. But I think that if they're doing it in the States, it's quite possible that they'll be doing it here as well. So it's worthwhile diarizing it, putting it in your Google Calendar or whatever. On December 13th and 14th, have a look on Apple TV, and it probably will be available for free here as well. Or if you're a subscriber, obviously, there it is. That's going to be number one on our must-watch Christmas movies for the year, with more to follow, right?
Absolutely. It'll unfold like an advent calendar, our selection of Christmas movies. And Tat, always good to chat, and we're going to do it all again next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Cheers, pal.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
It's often said that time is money, but for some, time is the investment. A recent Swiss study has revealed that luxury watches are outperforming traditional assets, delivering stronger returns, better liquidity, and lower costs than even the property market. And here in South Africa, that trend is ticking louder than ever. At the heart of it all is Alan Carrington. He's managing director and owner of Shemer, a man who's been immersed in the world of fine jewelry and timepieces since his childhood, carrying forward a legacy that began in 1966. And under his leadership, Shemer has not only remained an official Rolex retailer since 1991, but continues to shape South Africa's growing luxury landscape with the country's first standalone Rolex boutique opening soon in Sandton's Diamond Walk. Alan joined us to talk about why watch collecting is more than a hobby, how luxury has evolved beyond ownership into experience, and why South Africa is fast becoming a serious player on the global luxury stage. Alan Carrington, good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks for having me. It's an absolute privilege to be on your show.
Alan, good to chat to you again. We met at the opening of your fabulous store in Nelson Mandela Square. A really an amazing world. For somebody who's not a timepiece collector, I'm always fascinated by how people have bought into the idea of collecting something that used to be a necessity because there was no other way of actually telling the time unless you had a wristwatch. But now it's become sort of a fusion of telling the time, but also an investment and also a bit of jewelry.
Yeah, the watch industry as we know it today is so much less about timekeeping and about telling the time. It's about lifestyle. It's about status. You alluded to it earlier in your opening gambit that there's a certain element of investment that comes with luxury watches these days. So your cell phone has time, your laptop has time. No one really needs to tell the time on a wristwatch anymore. But the truth is that the wristwatch that you wear is kind of indicative of your status in society and tells a little bit about you as a human.
When we talk about it being a good investment, what kind of numbers are we looking at percentage-wise with people collecting timepieces in terms of the return that they're getting on a I don't know, whatever the time period is?
I wouldn't look at wristwatches specifically as a niche investment, if you don't have all the other investments in place. It's a diversified investment. And, if you look at the returns that people are getting on the secondary market when it comes to their purchases and particularly at the high end, you're looking at an investment that can easily outstrip all the classical investment avenues that are available to people. So if you look at on a global scale, property, for example, that used to be the pillars or the first pillar of every person's investment. When you get married, you buy a house, that house becomes your long-term investment. But internationally, that investment is not as sound as it used to be 50 years ago, where, property prices are not tracking with inflation. They're not giving people the returns that they used to give. Stock markets are typically only, if you're a great investor, you can get 10 or 15% on return over time. What is particularly interesting is at the high end of watch collecting, there are players that are making double the return on their investment in a reasonably short period of time. I'm not talking about a guy who is what we call in our industry a flipper, who would typically walk into an authorized dealer, buy a watch and go and flip it the next day for some profit. I'm talking about guys who buy to collect, but then over time their collections become big. They need to scale down. so that they can buy other product. And those investments are very, very sound if you're buying correctly, if you're buying the right brands and you're buying at the right price.
Well, I want to take you right back now and then fast forward to the future. The Shemer brand, the store that you've now got in Nelson Mandela Square, I believe dates back almost 100 years ago to Germiston. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of a story around that.
Yeah, so the name Shemer is a name that we inherited or bought. So Shemer was a Jewish family that traded in the Germiston area around 1901. They started a general dealer's store. So, in those days, retail wasn't as niche as it is now. If you were a retailer, you were a retailer of many different things. And they had a general store where they sold all sorts of things, watches being one of them, jewelry being another. And, as time went on, this family kind of narrowed their offering and eventually settled on the jewelry and watch industry as their area of specialization. That Shemer family sold the business to another Jewish family called the Feivelmans, and they all immigrated to Israel, where they still live today. I'm in contact still with some of the great grandchildren of the original owner. Every time they come to Johannesburg, they pop in, they stick their heads in to say hi. And the Feivelmans ran the business very successfully for about 35 years. And they also immigrated around about 1998, I think it was, when our company bought their company. And we've just kept the legacy going. We've kept the name. We bought the business with a Rolex agency, which at the time was impossible to change ownership of. So the way the Rolex business works is if you own an authorized dealership, it's not transferable.
Wow.
So if I sell my business, I can't automatically assume that the Rolex agency will go with it. So what I had to do was I had to be vetted by Rolex over a 2-year period, where the old owner had to stay involved in the business until I proved myself over a 2-year period. And then Rolex allowed us to move on independently as a company, looking after and being the custodians of their brand.
Well, that's the fast forward part, because now Sandton's Diamond Walk is about to receive its first Rolex mono brand boutique. What can shoppers expect from this new space?
Very interesting. So what Rolex are doing internationally is that they are, for lack of a better word, culling ADs. So in their opinion, there are too many ADs that are too diversified. So what they've tried to do around the world is they're trying to narrow the number of doors and be much more specialized. So I've been working on this Rolex space for about 8 years. 8 years ago already, they came to me and they said, look, we'd like you to find some space long-term to open the first monobrand Rolex boutique on the African continent. And it's taken that long. And I mean, it's a feather in Sandton's cap that they haven't been able to find Rolex the correct space for 8 years. I know that there was COVID in between that, which really put a spanner in a lot of works. But it took 8 years for us to find the space in the Diamond Walk that was both good for us as a business and good for Rolex, and good for Sandton for that matter. So we've procured a 200 square meters space, which is going to be, as you mentioned, Rolex exclusive. The Rolex concept, and it's a luxury concept today, is that there is less emphasis on product and more emphasis on customer experience. So when the store opens in the middle of December, the shopper will get a sense of what the Rolex brand is about. They will get an amazing in-store experience. The store is designed more like a big lounge coffee bar with very, very little hardcore retail space where it's a hard sell to sell the brand. It's more about the experience and what people and how people experience luxury today. You know, I'm lucky enough, I've walked into a number of luxury spaces internationally and locally, and most brands are moving away from this hard sell to a more towards areas where a customer gets an amazing experience and walks out feeling the brand rather than just buying an object and walking out.
Well, Alan, I'm sure you and I are still going to chat in the build-up to that store once it opens. And I think there's still a lot to be discussed. But as the saying goes, we're out of time, ironically. But Alan Carrington, Managing Director and owner of Shemer Jewelers and Timepieces, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
And Alan, with that, it's a wrap for the Sandton Times Hour for another week. And feel free to send through your questions, comments, and feedback. You can use the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media @Sandton Times, or hop onto the website sandtontimes.co.za, or use the exclusive WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 for all your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. As always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all the different podcast platforms and join the growing community in the digital world. Then thank you to all our guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team behind the scenes. We've got some new team members, and I think they are stepping up to the plate. So thank you, and a very special thank you to you for listening. And God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.